All great reels, they all essentially do the same exact thing, and that's catch fish. So it all comes down to whatever you prefer. But yeah, we'll kind of walk through the
differences of all the different reels and whatnot.
Characteristics, applications, and how they work.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Cast&Blast podcast. I'm your host, Pinche. Sitting next to me is my co-host, Jimmy Trent.
What's up, everyone?
Well, today we're going to be doing a little bit of an informative podcast for you guys. We've been getting a lot of messages, Jimmy, from people, new anglers, or, some of our followers are saying, hey, I'm new to fishing and I'm going to buy my first rod and reel. What's the kind of rod and reel I should buy? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than do this or do that. It's more like do what is best for you, right?
What do you prefer? What style of fishing are you doing? Yeah.
So with that, for the most part, there's three conventional reels the most common reels that both saltwater and freshwater anglers progress through over their, time, getting into fishing and kind of work their way up to when they start, really putting money into rods and reels and different combos and whatnot. And today we're going to break down the reels that we are, I guess, most familiar with, and, give you guys a little something. For some of you guys, it's going to be very, information you already know. And for some of you, it's going to be the information you need to hear so that you can be
looking for it.
You make the decision for yourself. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So, Jimmy, why don't you just point to the different reels and kind of explain what you're looking at here. So we actually have three reels on the table, and we're going to break them down for you guys.
Yeah, so we'll kind of start with the most common, which is going to be your Spincast reel. That's often what a lot of folks start out with, whether, when they're a child, just catching small fish and things like that, which nothing wrong with these. This particular reel here happens to be a Boo Garcia. So I think the most common Spincast reel you're probably going to see is going to be like the Zebco 33 type reel like that. And typically once you kind of move on past this, you kind of master it and you get past it, you're kind of move on to the spinning reels.
Right.
And the main difference between these spinning reels is, one, this reel sits under the rod.
Right.
It's got the bell flip on it.
Sure.
And the line is going to come in, through the reel in a complete different manner. One of the big differences between these two reels is on the actual Spincast reel, there's a line catch on the button. So when you push the button, and we'll walk through that here in a few minutes, when you push that button, there's a line catch. And when you release that button, the line is free for movement.
Got it.
Now on these spinning reels, your finger tends to be that line catch. So there's some adjustments that you got to make as you go through that progression as far as casting and how that goes. Once you kind of master this, or I'm not going to say master it, because you may never want to move from this, and you may, depending on your application. But if you want to, you can go onto a Baitcaster, which tends to be a little more technical, especially when it comes to operation and casting. You may end up with that dreaded bird's nest backlash, whatever you want to call it, and that's one of the main reasons that I'm not a huge fan of it. I haven't mastered it. But your thumb is that line catch as well, and that's what you master that thumb tension and progress through that, and that's what'll prevent those bird nest and rat's nest backlashes. But they're all great reels. They all essentially do the same exact thing, and that's catch fish. So it all comes down to whatever you prefer. But yeah, we'll kind of walk through the
differences of all the different reels,
characteristics, applications, and how they work.
So to be clear, you can fish using, freshwater, saltwater, from the boat, from the bank, out of a kayak. It doesn't really matter. You can use any one of these rod and reel combos for everyday fishing. I would say that if you're just getting into fishing, or you're going to take a kid out for the first time, and you're going to try to introduce them to fishing, I would probably recommend going with the Spincaster. It's a button push, button release, very easy to cast. There is some, getting used to as far as, launching a bait or
There's
whatnot.
some timing that you gotta teach the timing.
Sure, and keep in mind that with all these different rod and reel combos, the biggest key is patience, man. You gotta put in the work to practice your cast, practice your retrieve, and then later on you start to develop cadence and all that stuff. And that's as we get deeper into fishing. But for the beginning, I would say the beginner angler that's just getting in, and there's nothing wrong with starting off with a old school button push rod.
No,
and reel.
absolutely not.
I know guys that are still fishing in the pro circuit that are actually going out there with old Zebco combos and getting after
out there smashing fish. Yeah.
So
they all catch.
Why don't you go into, again, you talked about some of the characteristics, but how can I tell the difference? And how do you hold a bait caster?
So a bait cast or a spin?
I'm sorry,
spin cast.
A spin cast.
So we have this spin cast here off the rod. So essentially, you have what's going to be the part of the reel that attaches to the rod in the rod seat, the reel seat. So imagine that being in, and then obviously you have your reel handle. On a lot of spin casts, another thing too is some of them are ambidextrous, so you can change the handles. So whether you want to reel right-handed or left-handed. This particular one you can't, but what they do all have is the push button. You either have the push button under here, or some have a trigger underneath, but essentially they're the same thing. So when you push this back button, what that does is allow the free spool of the line to come out.
Cool.
So as you're casting this, you're going to hold that button down, and when you cast, you're going to release that button with that timing and the force with the rod, and a combination of the rod flex and the weight is going to launch your bait. So once that bait hits the water, unlike a bait caster, you don't have to worry about the backlashing because the free spool will automatically stop. Cool. So that's what makes it very easy, an easy reel to learn on. So once that happens, you just simply start the reeling process, and you hear that click, and then that's the line switch, disengaging and coming in.
From a free spool to actually reeling in the slack. And you just simply reel it in whatever speed or cadence that you would like. So it's a very simple reel. Like we said, it's something that the new angler can get out there and really learn on and find the enjoyment of being in the outdoors and catching fish. So one thing about all these different reels is you can find them all based on manufacturer, brand, and whatnot. You can typically find them in different sizes. You can go from a small, ultralight tackle style spin caster to a very heavy duty, spin caster as well. Yeah. I mean, they come in a very good variety of sizes.
So this typical reel right here, it's probably used for panfish. Sure. It's a good panfish size, but yeah, they get big. I think like the Zebco 808.
Yeah.
That's a big spin cast reel.
Right.
And you can winch in some large size fish with that.
So when you're looking at that, do they typically come spooled up, or do you have to spool those up? Or, when you're going straight to any one of the tackle shops, and you're trying to get yourself a button push or what we call spin caster, what are you looking at when you just go and you check it out? I mean, are you taking a look at line capacity? Are you doing all that? I think it kind of takes a lot of that guessing work out for you.
Yeah, I think most of them, typically they do come with the, pre-spooled.
Yeah.
I don't always know what type of line that is or exactly what poundage it is. So I typically, if I buy one, I take the line off and put on there what I know of what it is. But not only that is the price.
Yeah.
They range in prices, and out of all three of these styles of reel, typically these are going to be the most budget friendly.
Yeah.
And if you're getting into fishing, wanting to see if fishing is something that you might want to do, this would be your less expensive, more budget-friendly application to lean towards.
If you're going to be taking people out fishing and you want to have a couple extra rod and reel combos for you, for someone you're going to take out, you're probably not going to want to be handing them your $1,000 combo, just for a couple of reasons. One, they can, have a malfunction, and it's not going to be a good experience for them. And two, what if they drop it in the water?
How many times have you seen someone cast and the whole rod just gone? That's...
or they're gonna, I'll be afraid to use it because they know it's
expensive,
and you know, all that, and complicated.
They don't want to use it for what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's let people, you know, learn how to fish and progress through, you know, something that's, you know, pretty practical, and at the same time it's not too complicated. You know, you can get out there and, you know, push button, cast out, start fishing, you know, start reeling and get on fish really quick.
Yeah, well, you said practical. I'll tell you what, growing up, I fish these a lot, and I don't know how many fish I've pulled in using a Spincast reel. And, I mean, great times doing it.
We're still doing it.
Still doing it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's fun.
We do it for fun now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a pretty good breakdown. Like he said, you know, most of them come and they're what we call ambidextrous. You can switch the reel from a right-hand retrieve to a left-hand retrieve, and that's very that comes in handy, especially for a guy like me that likes to fish. You know, I left-hand retrieve.
Well, we just ran into that last night.
Yeah, you right-hand retrieve.
Yeah.
Last night we were on a boat and we were fishing with someone else. We just went out on a boat with a friend, and he had a couple of rod and reels on his boat, and he's just like, hey, we're out here. Might as well, you know.
Hey, catch a fish.
Yeah, so Jimmy grabs I think you grabbed a spinning combo.
Yeah, I go straight for the spinning combo.
And I grabbed a bait casting combo, and I typically fish left-handed. Jimmy fishes right-handed, but with a spinning, you fish left?
Nope, I fish right.
Period. Right-handed. Now, we won't call it right.
Correct-handed.
So for that reason, I mean, we both grabbed a combo, and we were able to, you know, get to fishing and whatnot. And it was a little awkward. We talked about it today about how, you know, his was set up with a left-hand retrieve on that spinning combo. He had a right-handed retrieve bait caster. We were able to fish, but I do believe it took us out of our comfort zone as far as action and, you know, what we could do with the action of the lure.
Right, yeah. You know, I'm right-handed, but I can't work action with my right hand.
It was just different.
And reel with the left.
It was just different. So having an ambidextrous option is definitely, especially if you're just getting started, swap it up. See what works, what feels more comfortable for you. And then you'll decide whether you're going to be buying, you know, rods or reels that have a left hand or ambidextrous that you can swap out, or just left-handed, you know, bait casters like what I use. So we'll get into that more in depth as we get into the bait casters. But I think you covered the push button. It's pretty simple. You know, the biggest difference is you don't really have a lot between the operator and the line. You know, I mean, you're really just your movements, push button, cast.
Yeah, your movements and functions of things that you have to do are very minimum. You know,
which can make a new angler have a very good experience.
Yeah, make them feel a little more comfortable.
Get them on a fish.
You're gonna learn the casting portion probably faster.
Yeah, and then you work on your accuracy and all that stuff, and it's gonna be so much fun. So I highly recommend, if you're just getting into it, man, go invest in a you know, base model, I would say.
Yeah.
Don't go too deep into the, you know, the high dollar combos, and get yourself a push button.
If you're looking to get into it, you know, $25, $35, somewhere around there, you can get a combo, and you can get some, you know, baits in the water to see if that's something you like to do.
And some of these combos come 2-piece combos, 1-piece combo. And what we mean by that is a rod, usually a 2-piece combo, it's going to be separated into two that can be broken down, maybe thrown in the back seat, under the back seat.
Yeah, put in a backpack for hiking, you know, whatever.
Then they got some that actually collapse into themselves. Those are cool, and you can typically find those with a baitcaster combo.
Yeah.
So it's a great option. It's kind of a I won't say it's a beginner level, but it's definitely where we all start.
It's just the normal beginner, you know, the first. That's we say, yeah, you're right. It's not a beginner level, but that's just normally where people do start.
Yeah, there's a progression to this, and it's all debatable again, you know, as well. It's not a beginner level. It's just where we start, and then we progress our way.
Man, like you said, there's people on the circuit fishing, you know, Spincast.
Really is. So if we got into the spinning combo, Jimmy, break that down. I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras to, you can point this out.
So here is, you know, it's a larger size Spincast reel, and this is my preferred fishing reel of all of them. I'll just kind of turn it around here so you can see it a bit, and then we'll pick this one up we have in our hand. So this is what I guess we kind of call the second progression of the fishing reels, and here's one here. these typically sit under the reel, or I'm sorry, under the rod like this. And once again, most of the time they're ambidextrous, so I can simply remove this screw right here, pull this handle out, put it in this side, and then put the screw back into this side, and then I'm fishing correct-handed, also known as right-handed.
Debatable.
So as you see here, it's much different. You have a bell. This is where your line would go, and it's what we call the bell, and then it flips. So as you want to cast, you're going to flip this down, and you're going to hold the line. We talked about the line, the trigger switch in here. You're going to hold it with your finger as you cast, and you're going to release that finger at the right timing as you're launching your bait. So once that happens, you just flip that bell back up, and you begin your retrieve. There's a few more moving parts and a few more movements you have to do with your hands, but once again, it's very simple, and I would say is probably the next common, and what I think now is becoming the most common reel that most people are using.
Yeah, and that's for all kinds of applications. I mean, you can use a spinning reel for bait fishing, for saltwater fishing, for, freshwater finesse fishing. I mean, it's just so many different applications that you can do with a spinning reel. It's very, very versatile in the sense of, like, I can pretty much fish anything I want with a spinning reel. You can, yeah, and they come in various sizes and various quality too. Now, when we're talking about casting distance, do you prefer using the spinning reel for greater casting distance? Yeah, especially for light lures, right? Yeah. So using a lighter bait, they tend to cast much smoother and further than either the Spincast or a Baitcaster to me. So one of the biggest reasons or one of the biggest differences between the previous combination you showed and this one's obviously oriented on the bottom of the rod. Right. So you have the option of splitting the reel seat or the actual reel in between your fingers. So you actually got more handle on the actual reel. You kind of feel like, especially you hook a big fish, you feel like you got a better grip on that fish. Yeah, so typically, you go in between the first or second finger, and you got that in between your hand. Got the rod. You got good control of that in the reel seat. You got it in there. Good sensitivity. If you're, you can have the line in your fingertip and feeling it if you got any bites. It's just a really good way of, getting in tune with, the sensitivity of, the bites and, a pull, a tug and all that stuff. You get a good sense of that with that in your hand. A step up from these, from the Spincast to the spinning reels as well. A lot of you can get custom gear ratios. You can get a lot different, gear ratios in there for your retrieve. So you can, retrieve more line at a time. Sure. Yeah. Different spool sizes for line capacity. Yeah, so there's a lot more options that really come on these. Another thing that I really enjoy about these is the drag system and how that drag system works versus the other two. And it could just be because it's something that I use and I'm more familiar with. Is I like the adjustability of the drag on the front rather than on the reel itself. How a lot of them are. Right. When you're trying to reel or trying to hold a fish and you're trying to mess with it there, I'd rather have it up here. And that's just something that I prefer. So he's holding in his hand a smaller reel than the one that's on the table, and I'll go ahead and put the camera on those so you can see the differences. Yeah. So this is a good example of how they come in different sizes, and depending on the manufacturer, they usually 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, and you can go ahead and pick what is going to work for you. And just having those options allows you to go and look at the line capacity, look at the weight of the line that is recommended on the reel. That's super important. The weight of the lure, right, and all that stuff. Well, the size of the rod for the reel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of that goes into play. A lot of manufacturers make it real easy for you because they actually pair them up. Yeah, if you're coming in a fishing, buy a combo that's paired together. Yeah, and take a look at it. Read the rod. The rod will actually tell you the action, the length. It'll tell you the speed. the stiffness, if it's heavy, medium,
medium, heavy, light, and bait size, what castability for bait size.
Yeah, and that's all important when you're pairing up your tackle with your rod and reel combo. So take extra time to read all that, learn about it, ask somebody, and they'll break it down for you pretty well. We're going to do a better job of actually showing these on the water or something where we can show the castability. We can do all that, but from the studio, we're trying to just break them down, give you guys the differences between those, and we'll work our way into the Baitcaster. So the Baitcaster here is more. It's got a lot of. I would say it doesn't have more moving parts, but it's got a lot more complexity as far as setting it up for casting and doing all that. And I'll break that down here. So in my hand, I have a standard, left-hand retrieve bait casting reel. You got a brake or a drag system, you got a centrifugal brake, and you have magnetic brakes. So all those play a role into how much freely your spool will move when you cast out.
Now they've greatly improved over the years. So the earlier models, they didn't have the magnetic brakes and centrifugal brakes and things like that, did they?
Right.
I mean
the technology inside all of these reels have really advanced. For sure. The spinning reels now are pretty much finding. One of the setbacks back in the day was just line capacity. Mm-hmm. It was a fixed spool, so you didn't really have much of a line capacity. And now they got, the castability. They have the line capacity that you can get in any reel. So, they're really competing with your conventional level wine style.
Yeah, over the years, line diameter has been able to, technology is a higher poundage with a smaller diameter.
Right.
And that's really amped up the amount of line that you can throw on these different styles of reels.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that on another podcast where we talk about the differences in line and their different attributes or characteristics as well. So again, you got just like on that spinning reel, he had the drag on top. This drag is set on the side in line with the actual spool and the reel. The spool is actually sideways on a bait caster versus vertical on a spinning reel.
Right.
Again, the bait caster is designed to be held in hand. You sometimes have a trigger under the reel seat to actually help you position your hand, and the reel is oriented on top of the rod. Typically on a bait casting combo, your eyelets are much smaller on a bait casting rod than they are on he'll show you the difference there.
Try that. We'll see if we can
get them both on there. So if you look at the first eyelet on the bottom of his rod, which is on the bottom of a spinning rod in reel combo, that eyelet is much bigger. Why? It's got to spool freely, or the line has to spool around the...
It's used to corral the line as it's coming in. So
it's guiding it through that hole.
It's going to come in as a big loop, and what that does is help funnel that line loop down as it comes back onto the reel.
And this one has a very much smaller, because it's directly in line with the reel or the eyelets. Yeah. So, you're going to take a look at that and see what, works better for you as far as castability as well. But, you have, like we talked about, you have your different, you have a brake release, you have your reel, and you have a guide on top with a worm gear that actually guides your line back and forth so it can spool evenly as you're retrieving your line. And as you're casting out, it's actually going out and unwinding evenly as well. So, again, the traditional, I think I have one here. You have your level winds here that actually still have, now they actually have the worm gear that are actually...
Not all, some of them do.
I have a pinreel in the back there that actually doesn't have that capability, and you actually had to use your thumb to guide the line as you're reeling in to kind of get it to spool evenly. So again, there's been a lot of technology advances in these type of reels. And again, these are all offered in different sizes. This is a smaller conventional bait casting reel. They get up all the way to like,
yeah, they get huge,
5,000.
So this style, I typically see this in, like catfishing or suspend fishing,
sure,
or saltwater fishing.
Yeah, you can use that off a pier. You can use that off of a boat if you're going to be like jigging. That's a good, reel to be pulling, something with some good weight because you have the capacity to get deeper.
Right.
But I mean, you can use it for, I see guys freshwater fishing with it.
It comes down to whatever you used to prefer and how well you can use it.
Yeah.
How do you find the castability between a bait caster and a spinning?
So it's all based off of setting your magnets, right? Okay. And your brakes. So this particular one has a brake system that actually has like a numbered system between 0 and 10. And
so when you're doing that, you're either increasing or decreasing the resistance of the spool
as it's free spooling. Right. So I release my brake. I cast out. My weight, the weight of the lure is now controlling how fast this is unspooling. And you have to adjust your brakes to where you can control that amount of free spool so that you're not over spooling and getting a bird's nest. And when it hits the water, you actually have to make sure you adjust your brakes or stop it with your thumb. Some people actually feather a cast with their thumb. I got into the habit, or I started off doing that when I was first using bait casters, was I would feather it every time. And I noticed that what it was doing was it wasn't allowing me to get in tune with actual adjusting the brakes and the magnets. So I was limiting my castability, right? Because I have my thumb virtually feathering the side of the spool, controlling how fast it's unspooling. So what I did was I started to work on how I adjusted my brake, adjusted the spool and my magnets, and just controlled how it would free fall at the bank, or on the boat, and control that. And maybe I'll do a YouTube short or a video and showing how to do that, and people can go on there and see how they do that. But you can go on YouTube and see a ton of videos of how to adjust your brakes and get your bait caster, I would call it tuned for a good cast and not bird's nest. That's the key. You're trying to cast out and control how much line is being unraveled off your spool without overdoing the spool, because if this thing starts to free spool on you and it's a windy day or it hits the water and it's going to keep spinning, you don't have your brakes set up or your magnet set up correctly, and it's just going to be a nightmare for you to take that bird's nest out. So
I can see, the one major difference. I mean, look at the difference in the handles, how the handle operates.
Yeah.
That's the gears, the gear application for these it's just built right in.
It's in line with the spool.
It's in line, and these are, in the back of the reel, which gives you this big reel handle that's out here. And that's one thing that I've always liked. I like the.
You got to think of it like maybe like a pulley system. It's almost working. The gears are designed to where when you move this reel here, it's spooling that spinning reel. Where on a bait caster, it's directly in line. There are some gear ratios involved with these two that you guys can explore different retrieves. Again, the gear ratios are mostly towards how much line you actually retrieve per spin.
Now, if you're fishing hard, if you're out and say you're fishing for muskie, which they say is the fish of 1,000 casts, right? At that point, you probably want to run a bait caster. If you're running a spinning reel all day, constantly casting all day, it will wear you out.
I find for me, if I'm going to have a long day of fishing, I can get more casts out of this guy.
That's where I think, for me personally, that's where baitcaster really comes in handy.
It's just less taxing. I mean, I just feel like you're holding
everything's compact.
It's very compact,
Yeah.
low profile. It's not taken up. It's very light. Where
typically much lighter.
a spinning reel combo, as they get bigger, get kind of heavy, and the reel or the rod handles of a spinning combo for two-hand casting start to get a little bulky when you start launching the bigger reels.
Right.
Where on a bait caster, there's not a lot of handle below the seat of the reel.
Yeah, way less movement in the entire process of casting out and retrieving.
So they're all different characteristics, but at the end of the day, which one's better? Which one is right? They all serve a purpose, and it's really what works for you. Jimmy and I will both tell you right now, he could probably get all his fishing done off a spinning reel.
Yep.
And I'm quite the opposite.
Yep.
I pretty much cast every type of presentation off of a bait caster. Both of us can fish both, but we have our preference.
Yep.
It doesn't make one more effective than the other. If my best advice to any angler that's getting into fishing, I would say become your own angler. Don't do your research, find out what works for you, but don't just follow a trend or follow the norm or follow that. Follow what works best for you as an angler, as a person who wants to really get passionate about fishing. You're going to find, whether every angler has a budget. That's first and foremost going to be the deciding factor of how much you're putting into a rod and reel combo.
That's what I was going to say too, is a lot of folks, they play keeping up with the Joneses with both fishing and hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, I seen this on TV and so-and-so has this, I have to get it, but I got to get, one step better than they did. No, man, you can get a $25 Spincast combo and go out there. If you put the time on the water, you can catch more fish than, the guy with the $1,000 combo set up.
Same thing goes for boats. Same thing goes for anything else. I mean, it's really what works for you, and pay no mind to what everyone else is doing or what they're saying. Get the information, just like we just did here. We shared
what we know.
We shared characteristics of all three of these, but that doesn't stop me from going. Obviously, they're here on our table for a reason. It's because they're all in our...
They all get used.
They're all in our toolbox.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend, if you're getting into it, start off with one. If you want to go all the way straight to baitcaster, good luck. Put in the work and work on...
just buy more line. Buy extra line when you do.
Yeah. So again, you're going to hear all the horror stories about each and every one of these, and really one may work better for you than the other types, and you're going to kind of stick to that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
We know and we understand there's a million things that are left out, but we could talk for 6 hours about different reels, functions, and what they do, how they do it, and things like that, but we got to kind of incorporate it into a shorter, informative podcast where we're just giving you some information, letting you go back and do some more research. If you want to continue to send us some emails or some messages, comment on this video and we'll break it down for you guys, or maybe we'll send another video and send you a personal message saying this is how we use it, this is what we do. Because there's a huge, portion of when we talk about line. So maybe we need to do a,
maybe we'll break down the different kinds of line and but I mean, guys, you got to talk about when we're talking about different reels. It goes so much more deep than just the reel. Pairing up a reel with that rod, pairing up a rod and reel combo with line, getting the right line for the right size lure you're throwing, pound to test, diameter of line. I mean, it gets way deep when you start thinking about all the different things that are in between you and that fish. At the end of the day, you want to increase your success for fish. So what is it going to be that makes you successful? And bottom line, it's getting out there.
Getting out there, putting time on the water.
You can't catch them from the couch. You can't, fill the freezer with hopes and dreams. You got to get out there and get on the water. And the best way to do it is find what's your budget, and then go get yourself a rod and reel combo and go fish.
Time, budget, time, go.
That's it.
That's it.
So, man, I hope you guys enjoyed, us breaking them down. This was a brief breakdown of the 3 different types of reels we have here. To break it down or to sum it up, we'll go back and talk. So we started off today talking about the Spincast, the Spincaster reel, the button push reel, however you want to call it. It's the big difference between that and everything else is it's just one button you push and you cast, and that's it. There's no brakes. You can get them with the drag system sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, well, they all come with the drag system, and they all vary how they operate. Like this particular one's on top of it, and a lot of them are just a dial on the side, on the reel, and some on the top like that.
Can you go fancy and respool your own with a particular type of line and this and that? And
I would recommend it.
I'll be perfectly honest. Every one I've ever got, I respool.
Yeah, I do too.
I go and
I know what exactly what's on there.
Yeah, and sometimes I want to go lighter than the line they spool it with. Sometimes I want to go heavier. So think about that when you're buying one and be like, okay, this is spooled with this test line, and it usually says there, I want to go with this. Or you just want to spool it for yourself so that you know how much tension was on the spool when it got spooled, and those things come. That's probably another podcast topic, is spooling a reel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, we broke that down. It's a very, very good way to get introduced into fishing, and it's very inexpensive. The spinning reel is probably the most popular reel when it comes to fishing, I would say.
I think so. And I say I think so because that's
very versatile. Staple, it's a very versatile tool. It can be used for so many different applications, so many different bait presentations.
The sizes it comes in, the spool, you can change the spool sizes. You can.
Me personally, I think I get better casting distance out of a spinning reel.
I was going to say that, like when it comes to castability, like launching out there.
Yes.
Like when we were fishing yesterday, I was launching out.
You were launching out twice twice as far as I was, and half of it had to do with I'm fishing, unconventional to what I'm normally fishing.
Yeah, that's true.
But I will say that even apples to apples, I know what I can do from my bait casting rod combo to my spinning combo. So,
but you can't leave out the bait caster, definitely.
So at the end of the day, I mean, if I'm picking up a rod and reel combo right now, I'm grabbing my bait casting combo.
And I'm shaking my head. Why?
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's what's comfortable for you, what you're used to, what you get more.
They all work the same.
Confidence. That's a big deal. It's like what you're confident with. Go out there and fish them all. If you can find somebody who's got all 3, ask them to, hey, take me fishing and let me try them out. That's the best way to do it.
Don't buy all 3. Borrow one. Let me try it.
Contact us, man. We'll take you fishing, and we'll get out there. You could try all these. So,
but we're fishing, not catching. We're not promising anything.
I think you've been doing all right.
Yeah, we've been doing okay.
We've been doing all right, man. So we haven't been skunked in a good while.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna say we haven't been skunked, bro.
Yeah, in a good while.
But it's been a good while. So hey, speaking of getting skunked, man, why don't we go give it a shot and get out there and get on the water and press our luck tonight?
Don't. Let's go.
All right. So, hey guys, just a quick little breakdown of the 3 different reels that you see here on the table with us, man. I hope you guys got something out of this. We dove into them a little bit, but didn't get too deep. So, hopefully it was something for you guys to say, yeah, I got a little bit of enough for me to go out and pick one up and get out on the water. If you have the ability to take someone out fishing for the first time, do it. If you have the ability to go out fishing for the first time yourself, do it. I can't press it enough, man. Fishing is it is not about the gear. It is not about your equipment. It is not about your tackle. They all play a great role, but it is strictly about getting out there.
Man, the
you're
views,
not gonna get
smells, just being out.
We got out last night and had a beautiful night out on the lake, and
we weren't out long.
We weren't out long.
It doesn't have to be an all day thing.
That's
just
right.
kind of get out.
Yeah, you get out there, wet some lines.
Yeah,
and hopefully those baits end up in some fish's mouth, man.
Put a hook in the mouth.
There you go. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think we're gonna probably follow this up with maybe breaking down some
line.
Some line. you know, break down the difference in line and the different characteristics of those different lines. So,
as we do that line, we probably will have to talk a little more characteristics about some of the reels possibly. So,
sure.
Yeah.
So more in depth coming your way. Hope you enjoyed a little bit of real talk with Ben and Jimmy.
Yeah.
We're trying to do some videos that are, I guess, based off of responses and comments.
People's reached out and say, hey, what about this? Okay, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of like, hey, show us how to do this, show us how to do that. And it's kind of hard to do from the studio, but we are trying to control the podcast from using our microphones and our cameras and stuff like that. We're going to be doing some stuff out on the water, but it's not going to be long format. We're going to be doing quicker, shorter videos, and we'll bring you those guys on our YouTube channel as well. So hope you enjoyed this podcast today. We'll be bringing you another one here shortly. We're trying to crank them out weekly. Took a little break.
Small break. But, you know, we had the game warden come out. We have those coming out. We got a fishing guide coming on.
Yeah, we'll ask him about what he likes to use and what he recommends for his anglers he's bringing on the boat. So we'll get some more information out there.
He's going to say finesse fishing, bass fishing.
Yeah, well.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see what he says. But I'm pretty sure he's going to bring some great insight to you guys.
For sure.
Especially since he's taking out anglers that are looking for like being put on some of their first fish.
And daily. He's out daily.
Yeah, he's out there. So, all right, guys, we're going to sum it up here, or we're going to wrap it up here. And we appreciate you guys joining us this far and hope you're enjoying these podcasts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And if you are, share it with a friend who likes fishing and hunting.
Tell a buddy.
That's how we're going to get these podcasts out in front of new viewers, is you guys telling someone, hey, You like fishing, you like hunting, I think you'll like this podcast. So you're helping us out tremendously by sharing this with your friends. So we appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys giving us a share. Pinche, Ben, and Jimmy, signing out. Peace.
Have a good one.